Yes. Okay, wonderful. So I am going to stop sharing and allow our presenters to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Beth. My name is Michelle Nasiglio, and I am the Director of Pro Bono Services at South Jersey Legal Services. And I'm going to share my screen. I'm sorry, I'm going to share my screen while Erica's introducing herself.
Thank you, Michelle. My name is Erica. I'm a paralegal with South Jersey Legal Services in the Private Attorney Involvement Program.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good. So as Erica mentioned, we work for South Jersey Legal Services in the Private Attorney Involvement Program. As I said, I've run the pro bono program here since 2009, and Erica is a paralegal in our program. So I just wanted to read a brief disclaimer. This presentation is being provided for general information purposes only and does not constitute legal or professional advice. The content of the presentation shouldn't be used as a substitute for legal advice. No one should act on the basis of any material without obtaining proper legal or other professional advice that's specific to your situation or your client's situation. We're not going to discuss individual cases, and you shouldn't share any personal information. Okay, so with that, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to allow Erica to share hers. We're just going to briefly talk about legal services in general, what our eligibility guidelines are. We're going to tell you about some of the projects that we have, but the bulk of the presentation will be about the Children's SSI project. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and ask Erica to start sharing her screen.
Okay. Oh, I had my screen share. Here we go. How does that look to everybody? Okay. So South Jersey Legal Services is a private nonprofit law firm. It provides free legal service, civil legal assistance to low-income people in certain areas of the law. These can include public benefits, consumer, family housing, education, many others. And South Jersey Legal Services provides assistance to eligible individuals who live in the following counties. So it's the 9 southern counties, and we're looking at Atlantic, Burlington, Camden, Cape May, Cumberland, Gloucester, Monmouth, Ocean, and Salem. Okay. So we do have some eligibility guidelines. We have automatic eligibility for seniors who are 60 and over, every county except for Ocean. Individuals who receive a means tested government benefit, so Social Security, general assistance, TANF, food stamps, they're all automatically eligible. And regarding citizenship eligibility, only citizens or legal permanent residents are available for services, eligible for services, I should say, with one exception: domestic violence victims are eligible for services. And we do have some income limits and asset limits, and they're probably higher than a lot of people might think. The income limit that we use is 300% of the federal poverty level. And if you are able to see the chart, for a family of 3, an annual income limit is $69,000. So I was surprised to realize how high the income limits are. And then, for instance, a family asset, you're allowed $21,000 for a family of 3, for example. So assets, we do not include homes. We do not include vehicles. So how do you apply for services? We have a centralized intake unit. They're available Monday through Friday. It's 8:30 to 4 o'clock are our hours. There's a phone number, it's listed on the screen. 1-800-496-4570. They screen for eligibility for your income and asset limits, or if you prefer, there's an online form that you can complete on our website. It's www.lsnj.org. Okay, so we do have some special projects. This is a listing of all the projects that we have. We have the bankruptcy project, so volunteer attorneys will assist clients in filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcies. We have the Children's SSI project, which we're going to talk about today. Michelle will get more involved in that. And we have the divorce project. Volunteer attorneys will assist clients with no asset, no fault, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say no fault, I should say no issue divorces. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to let Michelle take over to discuss the rest of the projects. Okay.
Okay. And does everybody see that same screen that Erica just had up? Yes, with all the projects? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to pick up with the expungement project. In this project, volunteer lawyers help people who need to clear their criminal records. Usually it's because they need to clear it to get better housing or better jobs. So that's a very active project that we have. We also have a project called the Family Assist Project, where volunteer lawyers give 30-minute advice consultations to people who need family law advice in a wide variety of areas. So normally it's visitation or custody, child support, divorce. So many families call us and get help with that project. And the final project is called the SJLS Guardianship Project for Children. And in this project, we provide volunteer lawyers to parents who have disabled children who will soon be 18 and who will never be able to care for themselves. So you may be aware that in New Jersey, once someone turns 18, they can make all legal and medical decisions for themselves, even if that person is disabled. So a lot of parents want to get and need to get guardianship over their kids before they turn 18. So they have that ability to help them through those issues that they don't necessarily have the capacity to make decisions for themselves. So, obviously those kids are outside, the early intervention realm, but, a lot of families have multiple issues. So we wanted to bring that project plus all these projects to your attention. Okay. Okay, so can everybody see the screen that says Children's SSI Project? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so what I'm going to do now is just go through more specifically our Children's SSI project. And this project was started in 2006, and it's been very active since. I think since then we've had over 200 favorable disability decisions for children and families. And it's very important because right now supplemental security income monthly benefits are over $800 a month. So it's very important when these attorneys, get favorable decisions for their clients. Usually there's a large retroactive award. So it's very helpful to these families who have disabled children. So this project is a project in which volunteer lawyers help low-income kids to appeal denials of SSI benefits. So we don't help with applications. We only help with denials. So what I would suggest is if you have any families that have children that may fall into this category, we always tell them go apply first. And then if you are denied, come to us and then we can take a look at it further. So no applications, just denials. So you may be asking, how does Social Security decide if a child is disabled? So they have a standard and it's on the screen. The child must have a physical or mental condition that very seriously limits his or her activities, and the condition must have lasted or be expected to last 1 year or result in death. So if the child has an issue that is only expected to last 2 months, they're not going to be granted disability benefits. So it has to be something that's more long-term and expected to last a long time. We actually had a case where the child died during the pendency of the appeal, and the parent, along with their attorney, got a favorable disability award that was retroactive a couple of years. So the family still got the benefits even though the child had passed away. Okay, so how do you know, or how does a family know if their child is eligible for benefits? So Social Security has a process that they use to determine it, and this is what the attorney helps with. Under the SSI program, a child from birth to age 18 can get benefits based on disability if two things are there. Number one, the child has to have an impairment or a combination of impairments that meets the definition of disability, which we just talked about. And the parent and the child have to be within resource limits. So there are asset limits for SSI and there are income limits. So if a family is making a lot of money, has a lot of assets, they're not going to be eligible for SSI benefits. So there are restrictions in that regard. Also, once a child turns 18, then the adult standard applies. So we're really looking to get kids, into this program when they're younger. So that's why what you all do is very important. And if there are any parents on the phone, on the call, that it's very important that you recognize that these benefits are available. And a lot of families do get them up until the child's 18. Okay, so can you appeal a decision? I will tell you that a lot of the applications for SSI are denied at the first and second level. So as you can see on the screen, there's 4 levels of appeal. So we really encourage parents or custodians to appeal if you are denied. There are 4 levels. There's the reconsideration level. You can go before an administrative law judge if you're denied after the reconsideration level. Then the 3rd level is you go before an appeals council, and then finally there's federal court review. So it's a long process, but I can tell you it's not as long as it used to be. When we first started doing this, kids usually had to wait over a year to get a hearing, but because of Zoom, they're doing a lot of them remotely now, or they're doing them over the phone, which has good points and bad points. But one of the good things that's happened is the hearings aren't taking as long. So the takeaway is, if you or any of your families say that they've been denied benefits, the most important thing to do, tell them to appeal. Even before we assess the case, they should appeal. And the reason why that's important is because if benefits are eventually awarded, they are awarded retroactive to the month after the application date. So they only have 60 days from the denial to appeal, 65 days from the date on the letter. They include a few days for mailing in that. But if they miss the appeal deadline, they have to start over. And then if they eventually get benefits, the retroactive date is going to be shorter. So the idea is just appeal it. We will take a look at it. If it comes to us, we'll assign them an attorney. And then if benefits are eventually awarded, it'll be retroactive. So we've had a lot of families get 2-3 years back benefits, which is a lot of money if you're looking at $800 plus a month. Okay, so what are some examples of disability for SSI purposes? Severe asthma, mental retardation, ADHD, neurological seizures, and autism. So there are a whole host of disabilities. They have a lot of different listings. There's certain requirements that you have to meet to be able to be awarded benefits. But we never ask parents to make that determination. They just call and then we make an assessment. And generally the assessment is, if an attorney is signed, if there's some merit to the case with some advocacy, do we think that benefits could be awarded? If the answer to that is yes, then we refer it out to an attorney. Some cases, for example, asthma. So there's a requirement and there's a detailed explanation of what the child has to have in order to get disability benefits for asthma. One of the requirements is you have to have a certain amount of emergency room visits per month. But let's say the child has asthma, but they're on a nebulizer, they're taking medication. They're not, because of the medication, they're not really experiencing any functional limitations. Well, with that example, the child is not going to be awarded benefits. So it has to be severe. Another example that I usually give is, I'm wearing contacts right now. If I didn't have my contacts in, I couldn't see 3 feet in front of me. So I'm disabled, but because there's an adaptive device that I'm using that corrects that, then I would not be awarded SSI benefits. Same thing with medication. If a child is taking medication and it corrects their, or at least helps their disability so that they're not experiencing functional limitations, then they're not going to be awarded benefits. So those are things that the attorney looks at and then makes a decision as to whether that they think that child will be awarded benefits. Okay, so that is a very brief summarization of the project and legal services. We're happy to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We are happy to take any questions that you might have. And I'll also put my contact information in the chat. And if Erica, if you want to do that too, that would be great.
Hello, may I make a question, please?
Yes.
Okay, I have a daughter, she has Down syndrome. We don't have any benefits, but we have a situation. Right now, we have to live outside of the country. Is my daughter allowed to have benefits, or for this reason, she can't do it?
That is a very good question. I haven't had a case where someone applied who lived out of the country. Are you a US citizen or is your daughter a US citizen?
She's a US citizen and I am a US citizen too.
Okay. So my suggestion to you would be to call our intake unit and we could, as long as you're eligible, we could find out the answer to that question. I've actually never had that situation come up. Is it a temporary stay or is it a permanent stay?
It's a family situation plus the pandemic, and also because here I have help because she needs a lot of therapy. And we was living there, but the business was sold, and so we don't have no more jobs. When the pandemic, living in Wildwood, there's no year-round, jobs. So that's why I come here for my family help.
Okay. I would think there would be a residency requirement, but I don't know that, like I said, because I haven't had that come up, but we can find out if you call our intake unit and if you're eligible.
Actually, I am going to be there for her appointment, doctor appointment in July. Do you think you can help me there, or you can give me a phone number? You provide already, that's right?
Yeah, so I'll put it in the chat. I'll put our intake number in the chat when I put my contact information there. So it's 1-800-496-4570, and they take calls, like Erica said, Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
I will put that intake phone number in right now for you.
So these are volunteer lawyers. Like I said, these are not legal services lawyers. We do public benefits cases in-house, but these are private lawyers who sometimes we've trained in the past to take these cases from us. So a lot of volunteer lawyers like to do these cases. They like to help children and families. So we also have a partnership with Rutgers Law School where we send some of these cases to them. So they have a supervising attorney and law students that work on the cases as well. These cases take a little bit of time. And especially at the administrative law judge level, the attorneys or the students write briefs and then they go to the hearing with the parent. So they take a lot of time and advocacy, but we've been very successful in most of them. Does anybody have any questions about legal services in general, the services we provide? If anyone would like hard copies of the brochures for either you or your families, you could email Erica and she could mail those out to you too.
Thank you. I have another question about the document we had to do it before they turn 18. You help with that document? I know it's a little expensive.
So for the guardianships, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
So for the guardianships, there's a filing fee for the court, but that's waived if you go through legal services or if you're being assisted by a volunteer lawyer through legal services. The only fee that the parent or guardian has to pay with that project is the fee for the court-appointed attorney to represent the alleged incapacitated person. And that's an attorney who basically interviews the person who's going to be 18. They just look out for their benefits. They interview people that know them. And sometimes there's a fee associated with that. If the court sometimes can waive that fee, but if the fee is not waived, then that's the only fee that the parent has to pay.
If she is little, like 4 years old, do you suggest to do it now or we have to wait for a few years more?
So how old is the child?
4.
So we usually tell, for the guardianship project, we
Yes.
tell parents not to call intake until about 4 or 5 months before the child turns 18. So, and the reason for that is the court will not entertain an application for guardianship until the child is almost 18, because it's very serious taking away somebody's decision-making. And so they're not going to do it when the child is 4, 5, 6, because things could improve. And so I had one case where I referred it to an attorney. It was 6 months before the child turned 18, and the attorney said, I wouldn't even file this now because the court won't grant it. So usually 4 or 5 months is when we tell people to call our intake unit. There's a process. They have to send in some information to us, and then we assign them a volunteer lawyer. But yeah,
Okay.
I would say about 4 or 5 months before the 18th birthday.
In that case, how many people can be in charge of it if we want to give to somebody, or has to be the parent?
So that's something you could talk to the lawyer about when the time comes. But I've had cases where 1 or more people, it doesn't have to necessarily be the parent.
Okay, because like parents, we always wanted somebody in case that something happened with them.
And so sometimes, yeah, so sometimes, I mean, most often it's the parents, but it could be an alternate guardian. That's something, you know, that is case sensitive, and you would want to talk to your attorney about that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any legal services for SSI beyond 18 for that kind of help for adults?
So that's a good question. I know that I forget what it's called in Trenton. There's I think up till
Disability rights, New
there's
Jersey.
disability rights New Jersey. They're a nonprofit up in North Jersey. But I think up until the child is 21, there are services through the, I forget what it's called, but it's vocational services basically. But the problem is once that child is over 21, then there's not a whole lot of services available after that. So the key is to kind of get them situated before they're 20. Well, after, you don't want to wait till after they're 21 because there's not a whole lot available after that point. I think it's called the Division of Vocational Services or something like that. But, you know, sometimes we have parents call when the child's 18, you know, after 18, 19, 20, and that's outside of the scope of our guardianship projects. We try to let people know about the project before and have them call us before the child's 18. Any other questions?
I have one other question. With this, are they grandfathered in then? Or they have to completely reapply once they age out of this SSI system and apply for adult benefits?
So once they turn 18, then the adult standard applies. So Social Security reevaluates the cases every 3 years. So in fact, if I get a child who's 17, I generally won't place that case because sometimes it takes a year to get a decision, and then the child's going to be 18, and then a different standard is going to apply. So, you know, I guess it just depends on when they get the benefits, when Social Security reviews it, but they do reevaluate every 3 years.
Michelle, what does someone have to do regarding the reval? Is it automatic? Is it requested that paperwork be sent in from the physician?
So that's what Social Security does. They usually send them a notice that says it's your 3-year evaluation. They have doctors there that they may require the child to go to. I don't know if sometimes the parent can just send in paperwork from their doctor, but I know that it does happen every 3 years. So we get a lot of calls for kids whose benefits are being terminated because they're reevaluated, and then they get a notice that says you're not disabled anymore, your benefits are going to be terminated. So we will help with those cases too.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. How common is it for SSI to deny children for disability benefits?
So I am not an expert. I've done some of these cases, but I refer them out. But what I will tell you is I think more often than not, unless it is a very, very clear-cut case, they're denied at the first two levels. So they're denied once, they apply for the reconsideration, they're denied again, then they get a hearing before an administrative law judge. And obviously the administrative law judges are lawyers. The first level of appeal, they're not necessarily lawyers who are reviewing those applications. So that's why a lot of attorneys only want to take these cases when it's at the administrative law judge level, because they can write a letter brief, they can go to a hearing, and they're being heard by a lawyer who knows the law. So I guess in answer to your question, I think more often than not, they're denied initially.
Michelle, may I ask, you had mentioned before we started about early intervention records, that you usually like to request those from families. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So if we get a case where a child is 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere around there, we want to see the early intervention records if they went. If a child is 15, I guess they're relevant to show the how long the child's been having issues, but they might not be as relevant if the child is 13 plus years past when they went to early intervention. But especially if the child is younger and it's something that's been happening in the last few years, whatever evaluations, whatever therapy they've been getting, then we ask for those records. And the attorney really, we don't get all the records in-house. We ask for certain information that shows what the child's issues are. The attorney really is the one who contacts all the medical providers, contacts the schools. They gather all the records and then help the parent, go through the process. So I always ask the parent, if I see the child is 3, 4, 5, I ask the parent, did you go to early intervention? Sometimes they didn't. But if they did, then I just want to see the evaluations and what services they got over the past, few years.
Thank you.
So I have a question. If a family was denied the first time for income levels, but then their income changes, do you recommend they reapply, or does a certain amount of time have to go by before they can reapply?
So if their income changes and their benefits stopped, if it's within the appeal period, they should just appeal it. But if the 60 days has passed, then they're just going to have to reapply. I can tell you that if somebody calls our intake unit and they say they were denied for financial reasons, it may still come to me, but that's not a case that we place with a volunteer. The only cases that we place are ones that have been denied for disability determinations, not because their income or their assets were too high, because that's just a factual inquiry. Social Security will get their household information and determine whether they're eligible.
Excuse me, do you think I can apply? I'm gonna be there in like 1 month, but to wait 6 days in case I have to do anything else. Can I apply online or has to be in person?
That's a good question. You used to be able to apply online. I don't know if they do that. I know it doesn't have to be in person because, during the pandemic, people called. You might just want to call them and see if you can do an application over the phone and ask them if you can apply online. I don't know if they're still doing that.
I'm sorry, maybe do you know the phone number?
I
Or
don't. There are different offices depending on, I may have one on my desk. Hold on 1 second.
Thank you.
I'll put the website in the chat.
Oh, great.
So the 1-800 number for Social Security is 1-800-772-1213.
SSI has to be is something different than the Medicaid, the health benefits that the children receive.
Can you repeat the question?
For example, my daughter has the doctors, the medicine for the government. SSI is something different, that's right?
So SSI is different than medical benefits. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yes, it's different.
Okay.
SSI is a cash award every month. And then now it's, I don't know the exact number, it's a little more than $800 a month.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I have a question. So my son is getting early intervention services. He'll be 3 in 3 months, but he hasn't necessarily been diagnosed with anything. Do I have to wait until like after the services? So he's getting speech therapy. He's not really verbal yet, and then he gets OT as well.
So you can always apply for benefits. There's no requirement that there is a diagnosis, and I can tell you that helps when there's a diagnosis, but you don't have to wait until there's a diagnosis to make an application.
Okay, thank you.
Do health benefits come as like a package with SSI, or is that completely separate?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know I think most people that are on SSI get Medicaid benefits, but I don't know. It's probably not automatic if I had to guess, but I don't know the answer to that. And if anyone's denied Medicaid benefits, our local offices help with that. We don't have a volunteer lawyer project for that, but our local offices will help with that. Any other questions? I think the takeaway is, if you have a family or if you're a parent and you have a question, you can call our intake unit to see if it's something we help with. And intake will screen you to see if you're eligible. And if you are, it'll either get routed to me if it's an SSI case or one of our local offices. We have offices, like Erica said, we cover 9 counties. We have offices in 8 of those counties.
Thank you, Michelle and Erica. This was great. Does anybody else have any other questions? You guys are a quiet group today. Or maybe you're a little overwhelmed. It's a lot of information. It's a confusing process.
So we can send you, Beth, if you want just the SSI brochure, or we could send you all of them and then you could send them out to whoever would be interested, or you can contact us directly.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I already sent an email to Erica to request them for our units so that they'll come to the Pennsauken office for dispersion.
Okay, that's great.
I did want to ask quickly for the brochures, you can mail them out, but is there anything online where we could just download the information?
Not yet.
Okay.
So we're working on updating our website and they will be on there when we do, but they're not there yet.
I can email PDF versions. So if you'd like to send me an email to request that, I can provide that.
If you want to, so Erica, my name is Shelley. I already emailed you for brochures. If you just want to send me the PDF version and then I can send it to our whole unit, all of our units, that's fine.
Okay.
That'd be the easiest route.
Sure, I will do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Erica, if you send those to me, I'll make sure that it gets out to people, especially the people who participated today.
Okay. All right, will do.
Any other questions?
Just wanted just to clarify in terms of the financial piece, like the financial eligibility for SSI, does it work like on a sliding scale, or is it like a hard and fast stop at?
It is not a hard and fast stop. It is a very complicated formula, I guess, but what they do is they look at everybody in the household. I think the asset limit last time I checked was $2,000. That might have gone up since the pandemic, but they deem certain income to the child based on the adults that are in the household. So it's not just a hard and fast number, no.
So they're looking at the income and assets as well.
Yes.
So in looking, like just looking into as children are getting older and turning 18, that's where the special needs trust comes in.
Usually that's what people do.
Right.
So sometimes if a child lives with their parents, and maybe the parents make a good amount of money, you know, when the child's 17, they're probably not going to get benefits, but once they're 18, they may be able to get them on their own. And then that's when you look into things like trusts. And yeah, we don't do that here, but I know that's what most families do.
Thank you.
So what were the income levels that were presented in the beginning of this presentation? Was that to qualify for SSI, or is that to qualify for assistance through you?
Erica, do you want to take that one?
That was to qualify through us. Let me see if I could put that up for you, or I could just read it to you. Let me see if I can get that back. I'm going to share my screen.
Even these numbers, I always tell people just call intake because they take certain things into account. They'll ask a lot of questions. Like Erica said, we don't count houses, we don't count cars, we don't count retirement income. Certain expenses can be deducted. So I like to give out this chart, but then I like to tell people you should just call just to be sure.
Yes, intake unit is very good at screening and discerning through assets and financial eligibility. And I'm pulling it up right now. So are you able to see that income and asset limits? There's charts, there's. Oh,
Did you share
nope,
it?
I
Oh,
did
there you
now.
go. There you
I
go.
had to hit the final share. So there's, you know, it varies by household size, but if you can see here, the example that I gave was a household of 3. You're allowed to have an earning of $69,000 annually. So it's 300% of the federal poverty level. I think the asset limit or the income limits they're surprisingly high. I think people have an idea of South Jersey Legal Services as very low income, people that may not have any sort of income or assets or anything like that. But if you look at the asset limit for a family of 3, on the other side, it's $21,000, and that doesn't include a house, that doesn't include a car. So that could be $21,000 in a bank account.
Which, by the way, would put the household over for SSI benefits. I know that that's well above what it is.
So, does anybody need me to leave this up longer?
Yes, I have one more question. To begin the process, what documents they request about this part, the finances?
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry. If I wanna apply, what documents I gonna need to present to for the process? Bank account, statement, what more?
So what they do initially is they'll just take a verbal statement of what you have. And then depending on the kind of case, we ask for documents. So for example, if it's a bankruptcy case, we're asking for your bank statements, your tax returns. But for an SSI case, we only ask for proof of your income. So we wouldn't ask for, your bank statements and tax returns.
Okay, thank you.
Do you take on cases if people don't qualify for those income requirements? Would you, if we knew that a family had an income that was above, that 69,000 for a family of 3, and they're looking for legal services, do you take on those cases as well for a fee?
So we do not. We're not allowed to do that because of the funding that we get. So normally if somebody calls our intake unit and they're over income or over asset, or if it's a case that we don't do, like we don't do municipal or criminal matters, intake will usually give them the number for the bar association, and they can ask for the lawyer referral service.
Okay.
And every bar association has that. For a small fee, they can get a consultation with an attorney who handles whatever type of matter. Usually it's about $35.
I'm sorry, Michelle, did you say that every municipality has that?
So every county has it. So
Every
for
county.
example, there's the Burlington County Bar Association Lawyer Referral Service,
Okay.
the Camden County Bar Association Lawyer Referral Service. You could just Google that. And they all have a list of attorneys who agree to be on that list. And like, let's say, for example, they want a disability attorney, then they ask for somebody who's on that list. And then they have that small consultation fee. And then if the client wants to hire them beyond that, then they'd have to talk to the attorney about what they would charge.
Okay.
Please, can you put in the chat the name of the bar, how you say bar association, something like that?
So it's I'll put it in there. So
Okay.
So you can just Google lawyer referral service, right,
Mhm.
Michelle? And then you
Yeah.
locate your county. Okay.
yes. Mhm.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Want to be mindful of everyone's time. We thank you all so much for joining us, and hopefully this is very helpful information. I know it's very helpful to me. I've got 3 pages of notes already. So we appreciate, Michelle and Erica taking time out of their day to help us understand this process. It's always amazing to me to find out that there's so many services out there that we just don't know about. And, that's kind of our goal here, is to educate you and give you some more information. So we really thank you all for taking the time today.
Thank you.
Yes, there is going to be a brief survey that'll pop up. If you wouldn't mind filling it out, it's anonymous. You can put in there if you have any specific questions. If you want someone to contact you, feel free to put that in there if you're comfortable. But we thank you all so much. And Michelle and Erica, thank you. And thank you for all the work that you do for families. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
You also.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.